Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Streaming live across the world on that thing we call the internet. And live at MichaelDukesShow.com. Good morning and welcome to the program. It is your home for common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Good morning and welcome to the program. And thanks for coming in. Also, by the way, broadcasting on regular old terrestrial radio across the state of Alaska. And this is your favorite radio station and our FM translator. Hello. It's Tuesday, which means it's time for the Tuesday Top 3. We got Brad Keithley with Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. He's going to be coming in and joining us here in just a few minutes, and we're going to dive into those big 3 topics for today, which include, brace for it, which includes the hypocrisy of Alaskan so-called moderates, the fiscal uncertainty of the recent decision by the BLM on the Willow project, and why are folks still channeling Rahm Emanuel's never let a crisis go to waste? So those are going to be some topics for today. Then on tomorrow's, or on hour 2's, I'm already trying to get to tomorrow. On hour 2's part of the program, Chris Story, the man from Homer. He's going to come on board and give us our weekly Uplift, PSA, positivity boost, whatever you want to call it. He's going to be ready to go. We're going to talk with him. And so that's where we go. That's today. That's the whole show. Thanks for coming. We'll see you tomorrow. No, it's good stuff. All right. So let's get into some headlines while we wait patiently. Brad's going to be joining us here in about 10, 12 minutes or so, but there are a few stories going around. And there's a couple that I want to talk about. First and foremost, this is, I guess it doesn't affect a lot of you because probably a lot of you don't necessarily care about what's going on in Anchorage or Anchorage politics. But I got to ask a question. What's going on with the city of Anchorage? Yeah, what's going on with the city of Anchorage? Come on. The things are like falling apart down there. The most recent one is the human resource director, Nikki Shabaka, resigned yesterday, kind of out of the blue, just boom, citing, quote, an increasingly toxic and hostile and demoralizing work environment, unquote. And this is just the latest in a whole string of resignations. Of course, capping the whole thing off was Amy Dubosky's departure, followed up by an 11-page complaint letter for alleging all kinds of stuff going on in City Hall down in Anchorage. And so I got to ask, what is actually happening down there in the city? I mean, I know nobody wants to be like, well, it's because we finally got a good conservative mayor, right, to fight against the evil liberal assembly. I mean, that was the framing and the narrative that was going on. But the question is, what's actually happening here? Because, I mean, people are dropping like flies left and right and center. Raylene Griffith, who's the department's labor relations director, is going to serve as the acting HR director for now. But there have been dozens of complaints from current and former city employees alleging a hostile work environment, according to the ombudsman's office. It's crazy. Dubosky in her letter accused the mayor of encouraging and condoning that hostile work environment. She also accused Chewbacca and the mayor of taking no action after she reported them to a senior staff member. Then Chewbacca has not answered questions about her claim from the Daily News on Friday and again on Monday. McAlpine, a former director of the Equal Opportunity Office, was fired in May while she was investigating employee workplace complaints about a hostile work environment involving the public library and its deputy director. I mean, it's just like this whole thing going on, and I just want to know what's going on. You know, Chewbacca leaves, Dubosky leaves. I mean, these are some pretty well-known names in conservative circles, right? I mean, Nikki Chewbacca is married to Kelly Chewbacca. You got, Dubosky, who's been known for years. And all of a sudden, things are just like falling apart. I want to know what's happening down in City Hall. I am thankful, by the way, that I don't live in the city of Anchorage right now. That's all I'm saying. Because it is a hot mess. That's what's happening down there right now. And the only reason I bring it up, because as goes Anchorage, so could go the rest of the state, because we seem to be like monkey see, monkey do. We follow along with what Anchorage does in the long run. All right. What else we got here? What else do we have here? Let me, I got to do something here. Put that in there. Okay. All right. What other stories we got? Well, it seems that the Alaska governor, the lieutenant governor, and top officials are all on the hook, or all in line, I guess I should say, for a pay increase. This, according to the Alaska Beacon, the State Officers Compensation Commission, which sets pays for the governor, lieutenant governor, department heads, and the legislature, has recommended increasing the governor's salary from $145,000 per year to about $176,000. The lieutenant governor's salary would go from $125,000 a year to $140,000. Commissioner salaries would go from $141,000 to $168,000. The governor's existing salary is the 862nd highest among state employees, below the manager of the Bethel Airport. So the Bethel Airport manager is making more than $176,000 a year. What does he spend it on in Bethel? I'm just asking for a friend. I'm curious. But out of all the he is 862nd among all the state employees. In their report finalized last month, the 5-member commission recommended increasing salaries by 2% per year since the last increase. The positions of governor and lieutenant governor last received a pay increase 10 years ago at 2011. And the commission recommended no changes in legislative pay, by the way. But $176,000 I messed that up because that was the new salary. So the Bethel airport manager makes more than $145,000. I'm sorry. I was using the new number, not the old number. But what? Okay. I guess that's good money if you can make it. That's pretty good money if you could make it. $125,000 for the lieutenant governor, $141,000 for commissioners. That's it's not a bad deal at all. If you can make that kind of money, I guess that's what you should go do. And finally, a new proposal from our friend and my personal representative. I mean, he's not from me personally, but I mean, he is my representative in the legislature. I have a personal representative in the legislature that represents me and only me. They call me Daddy Warbucks for a reason. The new proposed... Sorry. I mean, that's what people think, right? Oh, you're so high and mighty, you have your own personal representative. Yes, I do. The new proposed Big Lake Republican Kevin McCabe. It's a bill that would exempt gold-backed currencies and gold and silver coins from local sales taxes in order to encourage their use as currency and not just as collectibles. McCabe told the House State Affairs Committee last week that the bill was inspired by a constituent who distrusts the national banking system and would like to use gold and silver. Under existing laws, gold coins are treated as investments, not currency. If someone wants to use them to buy something at a store, sales taxes are levied on the value of the coin, and then there's a separate tax of the value of whatever's being bought. On Thursday, the hearing on the bill went forward, and legislators were offered an example. If a customer were to use a gold coin to buy groceries, existing law would require the transaction to be recorded as the store buying the gold coin from the customer. The store would have to pay the taxes on the value of the coin, just as the customer would have to pay taxes on the groceries. And because the price of gold fluctuates from day to day, stores and customers would have to negotiate how much the coin is worth and how much the customer would receive in change, if any were given. 12 states, by the way, have passed identical legislation. And there's no state sales tax. So the issue with gold and silver coinage would only occur in cities and boroughs with a local tax. His bill would preempt cities and boroughs from taxing the value of the coin. And there are some different states that have gold-backed currencies that they're working on. Wyoming is one. I know there's a picture here in the Beacon article of one, but there's all kinds of discussion. And you know what? Not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, what was the other headline that I noticed this morning that just caught my attention? House Speaker calls for responsible, quote-unquote, debt limit legislation, but shares few details. Surprise, surprise, surprise. I mean, because, we got to be responsible about this. I had no idea how we're going to do that. But we need to be responsible with a debt limit. Good to know. And what's your plan, sir? What's your plan? That's, what's going on? Responsible debt limit, trillions of dollars in debt, but we need a responsible limit. That's the important part. As long as we call it responsible, that's all that matters. Vote for me. All right. We gotta go. We got more coming up. We got Brad Keithley. He's waiting in the wings. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more. And Brad Keithley from Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets right after this.
What is that?
Common sense.
Regularly heard on American radio.
Michael Duke Show.
Radio.
Responsible debt limit. I mean, that's a few more between friends. We got Brad Keithley coming on board here. Right. Right, we can. There we go. Look at that. There he is, the man, the legend in his own right. Brad Keithley, what's going on, my friend?
Good morning, Michael. Just to clarify, the Speaker of the House you were talking about is Kevin McCarthy at the national level, not Kathy Tilton at the state level.
At the national level, no, I don't. Yeah, sorry, Kevin McCarthy at the national level. Responsible debt limit. We don't really have a debt limit in the state of Alaska, obviously, but you're right. It was a national thing. So how goes it, my friend? What's happening?
Doing great, Michael. Weather here, I'm visiting my mother. Weather here is still been fine. No more minus 15 degree mornings. So I'm not freezing out and doing great.
So you feel a lot better.
Well, I'm not in a hoodie, and during last week's show, I almost put the hoodie up to stay warm. Exactly.
Just to stay warm during the broadcast. It's going to happen. It'll be fine. What are your thoughts right now on any thoughts since you're a resident of the city of Anchorage? Any thoughts on what's going on inside the city of Anchorage? I just want to comment on this because I'm trying to figure this out, and what is going on?
I have no clue. Just as you were pointing out, it goes from one thing to the next. Dimboski and now Chewbacca. Just I don't know what's going on, and I think the problem is nobody knows what's going on. There's no transparency. There's no peeking behind the curtain, or no opening the curtain to figure out what's going on. So we've got the assembly into it with their investigation, and they're trying to stir up additional stories. So it's hopefully the mayor or somebody, whoever's left in City Hall, will make a statement at some point and sort of clarify it. But I don't know. It's to some degree, as long as the snow gets removed someday, and as long as as long as the roads still work, you can sort of chuckle about it. But we didn't get the snow cleared for a while, so maybe we can't chuckle.
Yeah.
About it.
Well, I think that was like the capper for many people was the snow's falling, and it's I think that was the capper for most people. The snow not being removed was like, okay, that's quite enough. If you can't even remove the snow off the roads, that is a basic function of government. What do you do from there?
But here's the real issue. The conservatives are just sort of imploding, right? I mean, Dimboski,
right,
Miss Conservative of all time, walks off the scene throwing slings and arrows as she goes. Chewbacca leaves. Jamie Allard isn't on the council anymore, isn't on the assembly anymore to try to direct things. So I at some point, the conservatives are going to use up all of their chips and sort of leave that side in disarray and let the other side, if they can get their act together, have prevail. So that's sort of the sad thing about it, that you
right.
have a conservative mayor, you have a conservative city director, you have conservative people on the assembly, and they're just all they're all heading off to the four winds.
Right. Well, and the problem is, like you said, is that, I mean, this was the time that we, okay, great, we finally got a conservative mayor to fight back against the evil liberal assembly, and then bam, things start blowing up, and you're like, did we make a mistake? I mean, that's the thing. He's really damaging the opportunity to continue in the long run. All right, Brad, hold the line. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Oh, whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
That's right. Not your daddy. Not your daddy's talk radio. That's what it was. That's how it works. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Brad Keithley, our guest here on the program, and we are ready to jump into it with a weekly top three. Brad comes on every week and, dials down some stuff that I think is important. And so we're going to start off today with a plethora of stuff. But first, let's say good morning, Brad. How's life in your neck of the woods?
Michael, I'm doing great today. Nice bumper music. And is that Eric doing the voiceovers?
No, that's a friend of mine from LA that did the voice, doing the voiceover for me.
It's nice, very nice.
It's the same guy that's been doing all my voice work for years, but I finally got around to updating some of my stuff, so you're going to hear some new stuff here in the future. Brad, all right, so we want to dive into this right away because I want to try to get to all three of the topics for today. We're going to start off in my favorite land, that is the land of hypocrisy. That is my favorite vacation destination because so many people seem to be visiting there. The hypocrisy of Alaskan moderates. We need to discuss. Tell me, give me your thoughts on this. Let's get started.
Well, this got triggered by a recent article in the Ketchikan Daily News of all places that I'll refer to here in just a second. But here's the setup for it. Moderates in the lower 48 typically say we need more spending, right? But they also at least are self-conscious enough or humble enough or aware enough to say we need more spending and I'm willing to play my part. I'm willing to pay a percentage part, play my proportionate part in that additional spending. And moderates in the lower 48 also are focused not only on spending issues, they're focused on revenue design. I mean, that's where you get all the battles between sales taxes and income taxes and using the flat tax as sort of a middle road landing spot. But they're always equally focused on spending. We've got to spend more in certain areas, and revenue design. We've got to make sure that we spread that burden of additional spending equitably throughout all income brackets and not focus it just on lower income brackets or middle and lower income brackets like a sales tax does. Those two issues go hand in hand. Alaska moderates are great at focusing on spending. I mean, they're pushing for additional K through 12 spending. They're pushing for additional defined benefits. They're pushing now for additional university spending. They're pushing for, a variety of additional spending categories. But when it comes to who pays for that, unlike the moderates in the lower 48 or in the rest of the world, the moderates up here going, who, me pay? No, I don't. No, that's not fair. We need to push it down on middle and lower income Alaska families through PFD cuts. That's the way we need to pay for it. And on revenue design, an issue that, as I say, is equally important to moderates in the lower 48 and elsewhere in the world. On revenue design, you can't find one Alaska moderate who talks about it at all. It's always, well, PFD cuts. That's just the way we're going to do it. And let's not talk about any of this other stuff. So what you really have is a hypocrisy up here of the moderates, or the moderates are in a hypocrisy up here of saying, spend, push forward on all spending fronts, K through 12, defined benefit plans, university, anything else I can come up with, push forward on all spending fronts. But when it comes to paying for it, they're nowhere to be found. It's like, I'm in the top 20% as all legislators, with maybe the exception of two. I'm in the top 20%. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to talk about that. So I'm moderate on some things, but I'm not moderate on the revenue side. I'm a plutocrat, or I'm an elitist, a top 20% elitist when it comes to the revenue side. Here's the thing that brought it home for me. This is a report in the Ketchikan Daily News, which is a great way to keep in touch with Southeast, by the way.
Right.
In the Ketchikan Daily News, a report on a meeting of their congressional delegation, who they quickly point out 5 of 6 of whom are former teachers. Their representative their legislative delegation with Ketchikan, and here's Dan Ortiz from Ketchikan, the representative from Ketchikan, talking. The reality is, while the members of the legislature are saying publicly that they support an increment to the BSA because they're hearing from their districts that that's needed, we can't have that, at least a significant one, and also have a full PFD or the statutory PFD, Ortiz continued. Those two things won't work unless you're willing to overdraw the earnings reserve. Dan, there's another option. You pay for it.
Yeah.
You pay a proportionate part. So therefore, it's really simple, he continued. If we want to have a significant capital budget, if we want to have a significant increase for the BSA, well, then we can't have the statutory PFD. Those things are not possible. You cannot do it. And so that's really where everybody is going to have to show their cards as individual legislatures and as caucuses. Eventually, the vote will come as to, okay, where are you on the full PFD versus having a meaningful capital budget and having a meaningful increase to the BSA? You have to choose. Nowhere in that discussion by Ortiz or any other member of that delegation is, and we're willing to pay our proportionate share. As top 20% members, we're as state retirees with a full with mostly tier 1 retirees, we're willing to contribute our proportionate share to these costs. Or nowhere in this discussion is there we have to balance on the revenue side. We have to balance who we take this money from. We want a fair and equitable resolution on the revenue side the same way we want to. None of that. These guys are just they're in it for additional spending. These so-called moderates are in it for additional spending. But when it comes to who pays, you see that their backsides as they're running out the door. Not me. Push it to middle and lower income Alaska families through PFD cuts. It is the ultimate, when viewed from the perspective of understanding what moderates normally are in the lower 48, it is the ultimate in hypocrisy that we're getting out of these Alaska moderates.
It's interesting because this is the same kind of hypocrisy we saw during the veto debate with Governor Dunleavy. Oh, cut. Oh, but don't cut in my district, because we could have cuts, but just not there. It's the same kind of thing. Nobody wants to acknowledge that everybody is going to have to feel some pain if we want to either continue to spend at the current level or cut down from the current level. Somebody's going to have to feel the pain. We can't just keep going on. And that's part of the problem here is everybody is ignoring the overall problem, which is a tremendous appetite for spending.
Yep. And no recognition. Well, not only no recognition, a refusal of recognition of the impact it's having, of the revenue impact the impact it's having on the revenue side on middle and lower income Alaska families. It's like somehow magically cutting the PFD doesn't impact people. It's the same thing as saying magically taxes don't impact people, right? I mean, income taxes impact people, sales taxes impact people. PFD cuts are just another variation of that. They're a head tax, what Hammond called a head tax. And they impact people, but there's no recognition of the impact. A lot of these people go around saying, oh, we got to do it for middle and lower income Alaska families. We've got to give them a leg up. We've got to have a better education system. We've got to have a better defined benefit system. We've got to have a better, university system to give middle and lower income Alaska families a leg up. Guys, are you watching what you're doing on the revenue side? You're taking it out of middle and lower income Alaska families. The top 20% are laughing all the way to the bank. They're contributing virtually nothing to these costs. You're just what you're doing is you're deciding how middle and lower income Alaska families spend their money. You're taking it, you're saying, yeah, you don't need that money. We need it, and we're going to spend it for you on all these good things. The top 20% who also benefit, who are in the front lines of saying we need spending, we need K through 12. They're out in front saying that's good for Alaska. Well, if it's good for Alaska, pay for it, a portion of it yourselves. No, we don't want to do that. It's just, Michael, it's just one of the viewed from the perspective of somebody who understands fiscal policy, viewed from the perspective of someone who sees how this plays out in the lower 48, it's just a joke in Alaska, what these so-called moderates are doing. It's spend, but don't make me pay for it. Let's just shove the cost down on middle and lower income Alaska families. They won't care. They'll be fine. We'll just explain it's for their own good.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And of course, nobody wants to say the dreaded tax word. Nobody wants to even acknowledge that the dreaded tax word is already in effect on the PFD. That's the thing. They've already made the and you could hear it in Ortiz's comments there. He's already made the decision that the PFD is the only bag of money to draw from everything else.
It either comes from the PFD or it comes from the earnings reserve. What universe is Dan living in? There is another option. You've got a personal income tax going on middle and lower income families in the form of PFD cuts. Just broaden the personal income tax to everybody and include non-residents, so you get a 10% bump. I mean, 10% of the costs are covered by non-residents, so you don't have to cover that from middle and lower income, or you don't have to cover that from any Alaska families, middle and lower income or higher income Alaska families. But rather than talk about what truly would be a moderate revenue proposal, a moderate proposal on the revenue side, rather than talk about that, they just ignore it, assume it away, and say, "Oh yeah, this revenue proposal that benefits me as a member of the top 20%. Yeah, that's the one I want to go with."
Before your head explodes, I think
it is just frustrating. It's just frustrating to see people get away with claiming the moderate. I mean, the press lets them get away with it. The bloggers let them get away with it. They're moderates. No, they aren't. They're hypocritical elitists is what they are.
Well, yeah, they're big
limousine liberals.
They're big government people. I mean, right? This is not liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican. This is big government versus limited, more restricted, smaller government. That's all it is. It doesn't matter. We've got R's doing it. We've got D's doing it. It doesn't matter. They're pro-government, pro-big government. That's the end of the story. All right, let's move over to
I want to stay on this forever. It's just
blood shoots from your eyes. Number 2, the Willow Project and fiscal uncertainty. Go for it.
Well, the Willow Project is great. So BLM this past week came out with a preliminary decision that will be finalized somewhere in the 30-plus day range, a preliminary decision that they're going to allow 3 pads at the Willow Project. What Conoco had proposed 5, had said that when it got rejected by the courts, came back to the agency and to the company, they essentially worked out a deal for 3. Conoco said it could live with 3. If it got cut down below 3, got cut to 2, as many had proposed, then they couldn't live with it. It wouldn't be an economic project, and they weren't going to go forward. They weren't going to be able to develop enough reserves out of 2 pads to be able to make the project, to be able to make the high investment required economic. And the BLM's come out with a preliminary decision that says 3 pads, not 5 as you originally proposed, not 2 as others had proposed. We're going to go with 3 pads. And Conoco said that makes it economic. Conoco's had very good words about it since. But some are reacting. Some in the community are reacting, saying happy days are here again, because wow, more production's coming, huge numbers of additional production. We're in the money. Fiscal problems have gone away. And what I want to discuss in the second segment is that economically, this is good for Alaska, very good for Alaska, and I'll explain why economically it's very good for Alaska. But from a fiscal standpoint, it's not happy days are here again. And I'll explain why the way that royalty works on federal lands and the way our severance tax structure works, why it's not happy days are here again just because the Willow Project's been approved.
All right. Brad Keithley, our guest, Alaska's for Sustainable Budgets. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with number 2 and number 3 if we can squeeze it in. We'll be back with more common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. The Michael Duke Show.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand.
Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
In the break with Brad Keithley, Alaskans for sustainable budgets. Oh, Brad. Any thoughts on speaking of hypocrisy? Any thoughts on the HB 22, the defined benefits plan being rammed through community and regional affairs at warp speed and then coming out at the other end without a fiscal note? I mean, because the vote has now happened, right? So the vote's over, but it can't go anywhere because it doesn't have a fiscal note attached to it. And they may not be able to get to a fiscal note for maybe a month or something. So any thoughts on that whole thing?
Oh, it's CJ. It's the Bush caucus showing their power by CJ ramming it through the committee, and he got the freshman Republicans and the freshman Democrats on the committee to support it because, after all, it's K through 12. It's for the children, and or well, that particular bill is not for the children.
It's for the firefighters.
It's for the firefighters. It's for somebody.
The first, right? I know it's somebody has got to. Don't you love children, hamsters, squirrels, and police? Oh, it was police. That was it. That's it.
But it's just, I mean, it's them showing the power, their power to do it. But that bill's got what? If Kevin's on, he'll know. It's either got 3 referrals or 4 referrals. It's like the death.
4. Yeah, it's got 4 referrals total,
so it's like the death knell. I mean,
yeah.
It rarely, something that has 4 referrals barely gets to the finance committee, much less to the floor of the House of Origin, much less crosses over and gets to the other body. So it's unlikely to go anywhere. But I think it is. So it was a signaling. It was a signaling by CJ that, look, the Bush powers got control here, and I'm going to exercise my powers as chairman of the committee to show you that control. And it's a signaling by the freshmen that, hey, we're not going to be your father's conservative, I guess, and we're going to vote for things like this. So they're out there. I think McKay and the others that voted against it, showed common sense by saying, wait, let's slow down. Let's consider all the aspects of this. Let's get a fiscal note on it. But they wanted to get the signal out there. They got it out there. Andy Josephson got a signal out there that, hey, even in the minority, I can push things and I can get things through committee. Okay, great. You may have killed your bill doing it because nobody's going to want to touch it from here on out. But okay, so it's just one of it. It's sort of like Senate going all in on K through 12 spending, which is where my brain was earlier. Senate going all in on K through 12 spending right from the beginning. Let's not build up a constituency. Let's not look at the various aspects of this. Let's just get this bill going. Let's just get these dollars going. And it's a signal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a way of signaling that to their constituencies that that's what they're doing. Jamie Allard, on the other hand, the chair of the House Education Committee, gave her signal also. She didn't even show up for her first committee meeting. So yes,
wow.
We got signals going all over the place. But that's what you get in the early part of the session. You get signaling actions. You don't get actions that really have a lot of meaning. They're just actions designed to get headlines.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch how this all shakes out, but I just found it very, that those first moves seem to set the tone, right? And so the first move is we're going to blitzkrieg this through the committees and try and get it done. You could see exactly where, and the strong arming that's going on is definitely an interesting situation.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin and McCabe and Tom McKay were right to try to slow it down, and they were right in the points they made. And I don't, some people are saying, oh, well, they should have read the bill. Whichever, I think it was McKay who said he hadn't read the bill yet. I mean, that's not the way the legislative process works. But that's the signal they wanted to send. They wanted to show that they could steamroll something, that the Bush caucus with CJ as chairman could steamroll something. So, okay, there's your signal. You got it. Congratulations.
Right. You have the power. We admit you have the power. It's all fine. We're all good to go. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, is our guest. We're going over the weekly top 3. We're about 45 seconds out. I believe Jamie was attending her daughter's graduation, was what Donna said. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it is. It's easy, it's early in the thing, early in the session. Stuff happens. It was like, I can't remember who. Oh, I think it was when Shower was out, and they're like, well, I don't know where he's at. He's supposed to be a fighter for us, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, man, I remember when Liesl McGuire took like a 3-week junket to Germany, and nobody really said anything about it until I started blasting it on the show like a week later. Like, what the? She's out doing this I mean, the session is going on. Anyway, it is what it is. Let's continue on. The Michael, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like and share, like and follow. Hey, subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
That's right. Left and right dichotomy, more like pro-government and, big government and small government dichotomy. I don't know. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, continues with us here this morning. Brad, we were talking about number 2, the good news on Willow from the BLM report, but also how that there's still fiscal uncertainty on that. What's happening?
Well, let's talk about Willow from 2 perspectives quickly. One is from the economic perspective. It's great for Alaska. There will be construction involved. There will be people hired. There will be materials required. There will be transportation up to the slope required. There will be, contractors hired to do a number of things. That is great for the Alaska economy. When people say oil drives our economy, what really drives our economy is oil construction, is oil development, is hiring people to do oil development. Once you get the thing built, like Prudhoe, you sort of ramp down the need for people, you ramp down the need for contractors, you ramp down the need for various ancillary services. But in the construction phase, in the development phase, you bring on a lot of contractors, a lot of people. So it's great for it's great for the Alaska economy. It's very welcome news for the Alaska economy. Some people then translate that and say, oh, well, it's also great for Alaska fiscal. It's not. Particularly something like Willow. Willow's on federal lands, and the royalty due from Willow, the oil royalty due from Willow, goes to the federal government. The federal government's got a statute that divides that royalty 50% to the federal unrestricted general fund, essentially, and the other 50% dedicated for Alaska Native communities on the slope, programs for Alaska Native communities on the slope. None of the royalty comes to the state general fund. Production taxes have essentially a tax holiday at the front end for new production. I can't remember if it's 5 or 7 years. It got changed somewhere along the way, but there's essentially a production holiday for new developments. That was done as part of the overall tax legislation, oil tax legislation in 2013. It was done as an incentive for additional development to give an economic benefit to new development. And so there's no taxes that will come quickly out of Willow. And in fact, because of the way the deductions work, we have a net profit system, a net profits oil tax system. Because of the way the deductions work, actually Willow in the early stages, in the development stages, will be a negative to our tax system, because Conoco will be able to deduct the expenses of developing Willow from their otherwise tax bill, and there won't be any offsetting revenue from the additional revenue from the additional production that will offset that. So when you look at the 10-year plan, for example, you see production ramping up, but you actually see revenues ramping down. and oil revenues ramping down. And that's not because, in part, it's due to the drop in oil prices, but it's also due to the impact of those development costs running through the deductions to the tax. So Willow's a great deal. It indicates that we can at least get some oil development on federal lands, and says that the federal government's not shutting us down completely, which is a very good message to send. It's a great message for the economy because it means more employment, more contractors, more construction, more building on the slope. Great message for the economy, but don't try to steal second on it and say, oh, but it's also great for Alaska fiscal, because it doesn't have the sort of impact that you're thinking on Alaska fiscal.
Don't we have isn't there a 90-10 deal in place on federal lands too? Don't we at least get 10% of the split at one point on the royalties?
That's ANWR, I think.
Is it just ANWR, or is it on all federal lands?
I think so. NPRA, it's 50-50 on the federal royalty. And it's 50% to federal coffers, 50% to this dedicated fund or designated fund for the benefit of Native communities on the slope. So I don't think. Well, I know there's no revenue that comes to the state coffers, directly to the state coffers out of the royalty side. There's some indirect effect to the extent you have some federal money going to Native communities on the slope. Then you don't need to worry as much about state support to those communities, but it's certainly not a one-for-one trade-off.
Right. All right. Well, so that's number 2 in the column of be careful what you wish for. That, like you said, good news on the one hand, not necessarily good news fiscally in the long run. We just get the bump on construction, and then it drifts off, right, and fades away in the long run.
Yeah, well, and eventually the tax holiday, the early years tax holiday, goes away, and we do get production taxes from it. But it's not going to be. It's not like Prudhoe, where we get both royalty, or what PICA would be, where we get both royalty and production taxes. It'll just be the production taxes. And if oil continues to decline in those out years, then the value of those production taxes will decline as well. It's just don't think we've solved Alaska fiscal on the basis of the Willow approval inside a span of 15 years. It's not going to have that effect.
Right. All right. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3. That was number 2, which leads us down to number 3, which is a discussion about Cook Inlet gas production and why it seems like some folks continue to channel Rahm Emanuel in never let a crisis go to waste. Brad, what is your thought on this discussion in the Senate briefing on the future of Cook Inlet gas?
Well, the sleeper issue this session, I think, is beginning to look like the Cook Inlet gas decline. Hilcorp has said we're running out of gas in the Cook Inlet. We're running out of gas that we've developed or we anticipate developing in the Cook Inlet, and so those dependent on the Cook Inlet, the utilities, NSTAR, the electric utilities that are reliant on Cook Inlet gas, you need to start fending for yourself. And among other things, they're looking at an increased investment in renewables or increased renewable power generation, and they're looking at bringing LNG in to supplement the LNG. The thing that I'm concerned about, we've had this before. We had it in 2010, 2011. We had a Cook Inlet crisis in 2010, 2011. The mayor, Dan Sullivan, was the mayor at the time. He established a commission to look into it. The legislature looked into it. The ultimate result of that was a bunch of credits, oil and gas tax credits, reimbursable oil and tax credits that the legislature created to essentially pay oil and gas companies to develop additional reserves in the Cook Inlet. Hilcorp, because of the timing of when it bought the properties from Chevron and Marathon, Hilcorp was the major beneficiary of that in the Cook Inlet, but there were other beneficiaries in the Cook Inlet. And that oil and gas tax credit program was credited, perhaps not fairly so, but credited with staving off the concerns we had in the early 2010s about declining Cook Inlet gas production. we're having the same sort of thing is now coming up again, the same sort of drive. And it doesn't take much for somebody to try to tip that into, and we need oil and gas tax credits again to encourage, to incentivize development in oil and gas development in the lower 48. And Hillcorp, I'm sure, would be saying, well, we've got projects, but the projects aren't economic right now. They don't pass muster for the dollars we have. Now, if you have some credits, maybe we could, get in there and do that. It doesn't take much to try to tip this crisis, the Cook Inlet gas crisis, into an opportunity for somebody to say, hey, we need more state money in order to fix this. And so I'm a little concerned that what we're seeing is sort of the same thing over again that we saw in 2010, 2011, 2012, the drumbeat beginning for state needs to get involved in this. The state needs to do oil and gas tax credits again. They were successful last time, and start pushing in that direction. And, we ultimately got the oil and tax credit, the reimbursable oil and gas tax credit program terminated in the mid 2010s. But after we'd paid out a hell of a lot of money, mostly from the CBR, to reimburse those oil and gas tax credits. So I'm concerned that we're beginning to see the drumbeat. And as I was reading this article, I was thinking to myself, Rahm Emanuel, do not let a crisis go to waste. Who is sitting there going, I'm not going to let this crisis go to waste. I'm going to turn it into dollars and cents for me and my friends by telling the legislature, we'll solve this if you only would give us money to go back out and develop these additional reserves. So I'm troubled by it.
Well, and I guess we should all be paying attention to it. I mean, it's no lie that the gas reserves are declining. The question is, are the projects truly, not fiscally feasible, or is it just is this the carrot, the trap? Is this the trap? Is this what it's about? Do you think?
There is a problem in the Cook Inlet. The Cook Inlet, we have a very small market in Alaska. We used to export gas LNG out of Alaska, but we stopped that. We have a very small market, so it's really hard to do the economics of projects in the Cook Inlet, because if you have a huge success, then you've flooded the market. You aren't going to be able to market your gas, and the price of your gas is likely going to go down. So you can't, it's hard to do the economics, but oil and gas tax credits don't make those economics any better. They don't change the dynamic of the market. They don't increase demand in the market for new projects. They just sort of subsidize you for developing gas and then holding on to it for a while until you can have the next crisis and ask for credits again. So there is a problem in the Cook Inlet. Frankly, LNG may be the best option. It may be the most economic option. Now, what people do is go, LNG, no, we're not going to do that. In the 2010s, Sean Parnell, LNG was probably the best option, better than the oil and gas tax credits, but Parnell said, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do LNG. We're not going to bring LNG into Alaska. So figure something else out. And what we finally figured out was to do the oil and gas tax credits. But people are going to have this allergic reaction to LNG. They shouldn't. It should be considered as one of the options.
Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you coming on board.
Michael, as always, thanks for having me.
Folks, out of time. Got to go. We're hour 2 bound. Coming up next. Sorry, Brad, I got you wound up on a thing there, and I wanted to keep going. I'm obviously, as somebody who lives in South Central and who has definitely benefited from oil and gas, or from gas, I guess, financially. I'm a little concerned about, where do we go from here, because that makes a huge difference. I've said it many times. I've saved thousands and thousands of dollars on my heating and electricity and everything else from oil and gas, and specifically from gas. So I am a little concerned about what's going on in the Cook Inlet. I just don't know if it's a real problem or if it's just they'll wait to the last minute to try and squeeze it in.
Well, if you use the Rahm Emanuel approach, you'll wait to the last minute and try to squeeze it in, because then your options will be limited, right? You need to start on LNG early. If you're going to develop renewables, you need to start on renewables early. If you wait to the last minute to do it, then oh my God, then Hillcorp may say, oh, I got this field out there, but it's not economic to develop it. It'd be nice if I had this subsidy to go develop it. Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's coming on as the sleeper issue. I've heard more and more people talk about it. It's gotten more and more press. There's more and more urgency to it. If I were a utility executive, I'd be concerned about it too. But let's control the discussion and look holistically at the various options, and let's be diligent in doing the economics of the various options. Let's not just run to the edge of the boat and say, "Oh my God, we got to do oil and gas tax credits again." No one's really pushing that yet. But this is the same drumbeat I saw in the early 2010s, and I've seen this movie before, and I know where this movie starts hitting. And Kathy Giesel was one of the primary movers of it, and she's chair of Senate Resources this time around. So I'm very cautious about this, and I see the sort of drumbeat that we saw in the 2010s about there's a crisis, we've got to do something about it, we got to act now, we got to and the producers tell us if we give them some more credits, maybe they can find some projects out. It's just, we need to be very careful about that, and we need to consider the economics of all the options before we go plunging off. And it's good we're starting early. I mean, relatively early.
Someone in the chat room just said, why are you giving the legislator ideas? Don't you just love it when Brad gives the legislators bad ideas? They probably thought of this. I mean, right? I mean, you're not maybe letting anything out of the bag. Maybe. I don't know.
Hillcorp isn't dumb. I mean, Hillcorp knows where they made a bunch of money in the early 2010s. They know it'd be nice to have that money again. I mean, yeah, no, I'm not giving the legislators any ideas that the lobbyists haven't already given them.
Right. Any final thoughts here, Brad, before we let you go for today? I mean, things this week, things we need to be watching for, just overall final thoughts.
You want me to go back to hypocrisy for a while?
Yeah, you can go back to hypocrisy if you want. That's the thing.
No, it's the things I'm watching this week. Ways and Means, House Ways and Means. I continue to watch. I continue to want to get a sense for where that's going. They've been charged with developing the fiscal plan. Ben's the chair. Donna's on the staff. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. If it goes down the line of the fiscal policy working group and includes substitute revenues, includes a component for substitute revenues, then I think it's got a chance. If it goes off in the direction that Ben would naturally want to take it, which is spending cuts, then it's going to become an irrelevant committee. But it had a good first hearing. It had a good second hearing. We'll see. I want to continue to watch and see where that committee goes. I think it could be a very helpful committee as it develops.
Speaking of that, speaking of hypocrisy, I thought blood would be shooting out of your eyes when you read the ADN article on Donna Arduin's return to the legislature. Did you read the piece and see Stedman's comment?
Yeah.
No, I mean there's no analysis by Arduin about the impacts of the cuts being proposed by the governor. The impacts of, but no talk about any of the impacts of the spending that they want to do or the cuts that they want to do or anything else. No impacts on any of that. I could just see you shaking your head. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that war is still fresh in everybody's mind. I'm not. It's not gonna be forgotten for a long period of time. So, but the committee is important, and hopefully the committee is on track to truly flesh out the fiscal policy working group's recommendations and to truly come up with an all of the above strategy. If it does, I think that committee is going to do a substantial service to the state.
Well, I hope so. Donna says Ways and Means meets Mondays and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. So tune your dial, tune your clock, and go over there and get it done. All right, Brad, thanks for coming on board and joining us. Appreciate it. I hope we didn't damage your blood pressure too badly with that first hypocrisy thing.
No,
It's
you let me vent. It was otherwise building up, right?
I got to tell you, it's ironic. We see this hypocrisy at many levels in the state government, and the moderates is one thing. It's when we see it from supposedly the more conservative side that we still get even more frustrated. But this is something we've been dealing with for a long time. So I appreciate you coming in and shining the light on it. Thank you so much for being part of it today.
Michael, thanks for having me.
All right. We appreciate you coming on board. All right, folks. We are up against top of the hour break. It's time to jump back around and do our thing with hour 2. Let's get things ready to rock and roll. Please like and share the show. Like and follow the show page on Facebook. Also, ring the bell and subscribe on YouTube. It's how we get things done. We're going to continue with your home for common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio, The Michael Duke Show.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yep, across the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. It is common sense distilled down into a 2-hour punch in the gut. That's what we try and do anyway, each and every. Sometimes it's more like a feather-light tickle instead of a punch in the gut. But, you know, we're trying. We're trying. That's what we're trying to do each and every day. Welcome back to the program, and let's dive in. This hour, Chris Story, the man from Homer, will be joining us for our weekly Uplift, where we'll get a chance to talk about, positivity, pottery, I don't know, whatever we're going to talk about. He's going to help us. He is going to help us get back on track and get things going on. I see that there's been an article that David Eastman put out in the on his own blog post. He's got an article up talking about losing some of his staff. The headline of the article is, "If you like your staff, you can keep your staff. Political extortion in the Alaska legislature." He said that he has lost his staffer after a promise from the speaker that if he liked his staff, he could keep his staff. He said this morning, after earlier receiving an ironclad commitment from the Speaker of the House that if I like my staff, I can keep my staff, my legislative aide, Pam Good, was fired. A Democrat political activist and former baggage staffer came to the office to gloat and to mock her in person and congratulate her on her retirement. This is the kind of treatment that conservative legislators and their aides all too often receive in our state capitol. And no, it wasn't a Democratic legislator who reneged on the agreement made less than 48 hours earlier. It was our so-called Republican legislator who recently joined with the Democrats in the House bipartisan caucus. That's Louise Stutes. That's it. After working in my office for more than 2 years, Pam was made to turn in her keys first thing this morning In addition to managing my daily calendar and assisting me with state fiscal policy, she also taken most of the daily telephone calls and emails to our office over the past 2 years. She's done a fabulous job. And it goes on to talk about how this all went down and exactly what was going on. It's welcome to the pot.
Welcome to the party, pal.
That's welcome to the party, pal. It's crazy. Anyway, it's not Stutes. It was Tilton. My bad. I said Stutes, but I mixed it up in my brain. I apologize. Kathy Tilton is who he was talking about, not Louise Stutes. So interesting to see what that's all about. You guys can read the article if you want. I'll post a link to it up in the chat room so that folks can go take a look at it and see what's going on there. These things happen, these things come, and these things go. I mean, I thought it was interesting yesterday watching Will Stapp be in the interview with us in his office, which was beautiful. I mean, the office was beautiful. Whereas when you looked at what happened with Rob Myers in his little closet, which seems to be smaller than my little production studio here, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, you lose staff. Sometimes your fortunes rise and your fortunes fall. It's an interesting conversation to sure, but we'll see what happens. I don't know if it's just more, look at me, or if it's really an issue. I guess we'll find out more about it as we go through here. What else is on your minds here this morning as we go as we talk about things? I suppose I should fire up the phones, right? Because usually in the first segment of the hour, we do phone calls and more. Feel free to jump on over and see what this is about. Let me get the phone lines. Let me get the phone lines plugged in and ready to go. And we'll take your calls and see what you have to say at 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. You could call us there and have a conversation with us. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, it's all powered by our friends over there at Satellite West. You could find them at satellitewest.com. Wherever you're at in the state of Alaska, whether it's Chignik or Chickaloon, whether it's Delta or Little Diomede, or Menchumina or Metlatakla. I mean, any of them, any of those places, you can find connectivity with the help of your friends at Satellite West. Sending a text message, making a phone call, checking your email, surfing the internet, all available at satellitewest.com. Go over there and check them out and thank them. If you get a chance to talk to them, thank them for sponsoring this show. Because without them, it'd be a much harder day here to get things done. All right, phone lines are open for your perusal at 907-433-3150. We'd love to hear what you have to say about this. Go ahead and give us a ring, and let's see what you have to say. Also, of course, you can drop us an email. The email address is me@michaeldukeshow.com, me@michaeldukeshow.com, and that's just dropping me an email and getting it done. Let's go over to the phones to see what you have to say. We'll start off over here. Good morning, caller. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Well, good morning, Mike. This is Mark in care of the Alaska Freedom Council, calling from the Golden Heart Interior. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Mark. What's on your mind today?
Well, I just wanted to get out there and refute your analysts on that 90-10. You were correct. It's applicable to all federally designated lands in Alaska. All Alaskans own that Alaska State Statute Mines and Mining, Section 28A1, 90%. They're cloaking it like they do the PFD, just like Coghill was trying to tell all Alaskans up here that we don't own it. And it's quite worse. We do, all Alaskans, but also all the indigenous Alaskan Americans born after December 18th, 1971, as unique Alaska U.S. citizens. They own this 90-10 with all other Alaskans. See, ANCSA, signed in 71 by President Nixon, was a pre-1741 origin. It was retroactive. It's where we get the ANCSA regional corporations because of this retroactive precedent that was set. And it really is somewhat providential. But the ANCSA boards haven't stood up for Alaskans post 1741, 2023. Today, public interest heritage and accumulated public interest assets, which accumulated 92 years after the 1867 Treaty of Cession with Alaska statehood. Now, we became a state in 59.
So, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, I guess the question that I should be asking is, so we're getting our 90-10 split. I was right about that. And then the money splits further on from there to the federal government and the regional corps?
You were right about the fact that we own it, but we haven't been getting it since 1959. It's unsettled. But today, all the land selections are concluded under ANCSA in 71 and ANOCA in 1980. And so what happened was, with the help of Coghill and others, they were able to slip in this acquiescence clause to seize the 90%. And regarding Willow, it's trespass. Alaskans own that.
Okay.
And this is what's going on in the BLM, and it also stems back to it also stems back to educational malpractice.
All right, Mark. Well, I appreciate you giving us the history lesson on that. Thank you for sounding off this morning. Interesting stuff there. Let's go over to the next call and see what you have to say. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, Mike King from Salcha.
Hey, Mike, what's happening out there today?
Well, 16 below this morning, not bad. Is this open forum? Can I mention anything this morning?
Sure, go ahead. Why not?
Well, you've known me for quite a while, and I went to Mexico last week and had all my teeth pulled and got new teeth. And they pulled all my teeth. If I'd have gone with just dentures, it was $1,300. $7,800 in Fairbanks just to pull my teeth. And I got new teeth and I got new pins. I go back in 6 months and get snapped-in teeth. And anybody that's got problems, you better get it done, because I never realized that it affected my sinuses so bad. I breathe through my mouth at night because I can't breathe through my sinuses. Since having my teeth pulled, I breathe through my sinuses.
Are you still there, Mike? Oops, I'm sorry, Mike. Hold on. I accidentally muted you. Since you had your sinuses, or since you had your teeth pulled, you can breathe? Mike, since you had your...
If I'd have gone with dentures, it would have been $1,300, but I went with partial implants on the bottom, so it was $2,850 the first visit, and it'll be $1,800 when...
Wow. Well, I know that a lot of people have done that. A lot of people have headed down to Old Mexico to get their teeth done. Some with good results, some with not so good results. I guess as long as you're going to a reputable dentist down there, it's okay. But yeah, it's definitely much cheaper to go outside than it is to try and get that done here locally.
Yeah, and I also had my eyes checked and got glasses, and they found astigmatism in each eye. I've got bifocals without the line, transition lenses, and glare resistant at night, $200 for everything. It was $750 in Fairbanks just for the visit and glasses.
Wow.
And state of the art. The machine they had there was way advanced over what Fairbanks had.
Well, Mike, it's a good success story, and I guess for folks who need to have some dental work done or other medical work done, that's not a bad deal. I had a friend that had a hip replacement, and he went out to one of those resorts in it was Thailand. He went to Thailand, and they have a medical resort there where they do the surgery, and then when it's over, they put you up in this like 5-star hotel room with a hospital bed and everything, and nurses that come in and check on you, and the rest of your family gets a chance to, go lay by the pool or whatever. And it was still, even with all that, it was still cheaper than having it done here locally. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's a worldwide economy now. It's always another choice.
When you set it up with them, I stayed with friends in Arizona, but when you set it up with the dentist, they actually have you a motel room all arranged and everything right there. So you can stay right there in a motel. They provide transportation back and forth with a driver and the whole bit. It's really, I was leery. I did talk to a couple friends that had just minor work done, but I am totally amazed at how much better I feel. My whole outlook on life has changed.
Well, Mike, thanks for your call. That's part of the news for today. You gave us a good news segment. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. It's good to hear from you, my friend. We got to go, though. We are up against the break. We're going to continue when we get back. We got more Chris stories coming up. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Kind of different set of stuff. All right. Gas cards for Valley school parents. Yeah, I guess the school district is going to discuss whether or not they're going to give gas cards to parents who have to take their kids to school, because the buses are still going to be making it a thing. Very unfortunate. If you make an agreement in exchange for a vote, the agreement should be honored. To which he says there was no agreement. Interesting. I thought Hilton was going to be back on a regular basis. I think so. Hoping to have her on the program tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. Let's see. We have so much snow, the Iditarod will just circle Anchorage 100 times. Haven't heard Mark from a while. Mark keeps track. Tell us about the $1,500 airfare and hotel, said Harold, talking about the taking your teeth down there. I don't know. I've had family members who went down and had medical work done down in Mexico, and they raved about it. Even with the plane ticket and the hotel, it was cheaper to get all that done. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Now, on the other side, I have a friend who's a dentist who made a post the other day about about complaining about some of the work that's being done down in Mexico and having to fix it when you get back up here. So, yeah, it's problematic, to say the least. Problematic. I mean, I think you have to make sure that you do your due diligence and make sure you're going to a reputable place and not someplace else. But again, I remember when my friend had his hip replaced down in Thailand. He came back and he was like, first of all, he was walking around and hopping and so excited that he could actually because he had been walking with a limp for like 3 years. And he's like, oh, it's so much better, so much good. And by the way, and his wife was just beaming because, like I said, he got the surgery. They rolled him into what looked like a 5-star hotel room. She went down, laid by the pool, came back. He recovered over the course of a week or so, got some physical therapy done, did everything else, and came home. And it was like, it was still half of what it would have been to have the same surgery done in Fairbanks. And just under half of what it would have been done over in, or just more than half of what it would have been done if he had to do it in Seattle. So yeah, no, it's still a good deal. All right, Chris Story, the man from Homer, joins us. I guess right now. Hello, my friend. What's happening in your world? What's going on for Mr. Story?
Well, as per normal, I tuned into the Michael Duke show to get some medical advice and
so did you
travel advice.
That was it,
all in one.
Medical and travel advice and a history lesson, right? I mean, you got a history lesson on Alaska state sovereignty and oil and mineral rights and everything else. You got the full meal deal, baby.
But could I really go to Thailand for surgery? Honestly, not me. Just couldn't do it.
Just couldn't do it. How come? Tell me why. I'm interested to hear why.
I just think, man, it's like if something goes wrong, where do I want to be? And I don't want to be there. I don't know. Maybe it's my own proclivity, but I just think we have the greatest medical facilities and practitioners, and people come from around the world here. I don't know if it's worth it. Are you really saving? We'll see. I mean, obviously, I'm so happy your friend had a great outcome, but
yeah,
I
well,
don't know that I could do that.
You know what he said was interesting? He talked to his doctor when he was in Thailand. His doctor had been trained at he interned at Johns Hopkins Medical University. He had been trained at, I can't remember but it was, he was American. He was trained in America, and all this, their whole business was built around American medical tourism. So they had the state of the art equipment, and they were all trained. They were all American trained. Very interesting stuff. All right. Well, hold the line. We'll come back to it. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. All right. Welcome back to the program. Chris Story. They call him Mr. Story. He joins us this morning to talk about positivity and pottery, one of those things, and more. We welcome him to the program. Hello, my friend. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Michael. I'm on top of the world, just to the right. We're close enough. I can see the top of the world from my backyard.
That's right. You're a little bit of a moderate because you're not quite to the center, but you're off to the right. Anyway, it's good stuff. I'm glad to have you on, my friend. What's our topic for today? I mean, usually you slide me a little topic ahead of time, but this morning you're just like, it's surprise. So what is the topic for today, Mr. Story?
Trusting what you don't know.
Trust in what I don't know. Well, that's a lot of trust from me, Chris, because there's a lot
like a boatload.
There's a lot that I don't know. So how do I trust what I don't know?
Well, Price Pritchett, I'm a big fan of Price Pritchett and his short little manuals. He's got small little books. The most important, probably the preeminent work of his lifetime will be U Squared. It's a great little 35-page book. I've talked about it before. But he said, you know more than you know, which I just love that sentence, first of all. I'll repeat it. You know more than you know. And it's sort of like a warning to say, wait a minute, do you trust your own gut? Do you trust your intuition? Do you trust what you don't know you know? Because you know way more than you know. And I think we sort of, I don't want to say scapegoat, but I think we'll maybe defer to others. We'll defer to other people's opinions for a lot of reasons, but one of which is I think we've lost a little bit of connection to our own intuition. I think that we have this sense that there are experts in different fields. We defer to them. We delegate our decision making to others who have thought this through. Surely they know more than I do. And we have a knowing, we have an intuition, we have a sense, almost like a fingertip feel sense of what to do or how the way things ought to be. But maybe unlike Rush Limbaugh, we don't have the audacity to actually put it in writing and say, this is the way things ought to be. And this is what I think, and stand on that because, well, I don't know. Well, you do know. You know more than you know. And that's a quote from Price Pritchett, and I believe it. I think it's actually very, very true.
You know more than you know. So trust what you don't know.
You know. You do
because
know.
You do
yes,
know.
You know.
Wait,
yeah. So a lot of times we just want to guarantee.
Let's discuss quantum mechanics. Just give me a minute here. I'm going to get down into there. I mean,
take a leap.
I know. Go ahead.
Well, okay. So we want a sure thing. We want so often in life a guarantee, and I think it's pretty natural. Of course, you want a guarantee. You want things to be a certain way, or you maybe even we want to sort of obfuscate responsibility on stuff. Wasn't my idea. That was their idea. They're the ones who told me. But the reality is, so Og Mandino was another great author, and he's
one of my favorites.
Been gone a little while.
Yeah, one of my
he's
favorite
terrific.
authors. Yeah.
He wrote in the God Memorandum, he wrote that he felt there were certain books that had been written since the Bible that were influenced by the hand of God. And he referred to them as hand of God books. In other words, people were tapping into the universal, tapping into God, and God was transmitting through them and through intuition. Do you honestly think they sat down and wrote something and said, oh, I am going to speak for God today? No, but it was an intuition that was coming through by silencing the noise and the doubt in our minds and allowing something to come through. So Marcus Aurelius wrote every single day, and he actually didn't write for you or me. He wrote for himself, whether he was on the battlefield, whether he was on the throne in Rome. He was writing in a journal every single day. It could have been a sentence, a paragraph, or a page, and it was to himself, for himself, and things he wanted to remember, things that he wanted to explore in his mind. And so it later became a book, or people published his writings, but they were never intended to be. It wasn't why he wrote, and certainly didn't do it for fame. He was the most powerful person on earth at the time, so it wasn't for fame or fortune. He already had it. It was for himself. There is a great quote that I love, and I remind myself of it. If I veer from journaling or writing in my fiction work or anything, if I veer from that too long, I'll remind myself about this quote. And I can't remember who said it, but they said, maybe it was Joan Didion. We'll say that it was. I don't know what I think about a thing until I write about it. I don't know what I think until I write about it, because we tap into that intuition and the knowing what we don't know, we know.
Right. It's something different. I mean, once you put it down on paper, it changes it cohesively in your mind, is what you're saying.
Yes, and exposes yourself to your own knowledge and intuition. There's people that I know that don't, like you, Michael. I mean, you communicate very, very well in both writing and speaking, but not everybody's is versed that way you are. I mean, you have a diversity of abilities to communicate. It's what you do and have done since you were a teenager, so it comes natural to you, and that's why you had a bent towards this broadcasting business, is that you can communicate so well. I know people, though, that write incredibly well, and you hear them speak and you think, and then you read what they wrote and you go, did you copy somebody's work? Because you don't speak so good. And you write really well and communicate so fluently in writing. And I think it's just another way to tap into that part of our gut, part of our brain, intuition. Whether you're a wonderful communicator verbally or not, writing is a way of tapping into, again, that sense of what you know, but you may not know you know it, and then it comes through. Have you ever written something and then you come back later and go, oh, wow, did I write that? And I listen to a lot of author interviews because I absorb things by listening, very auditorily connected I am. And so I love listening to interviews of other authors who have gone through struggles that maybe I'm going through, whatever. And I've heard that on hundreds of occasions. People will say, I'll look back at something, they'll say, leave your book for 30 days. finish your book, type the end, and then walk away for a month. Come back, and then you have fresh eyes. And they'll even say things like, did I write this? I don't remember writing this. But it's coming from a place of knowing what you do not know you know.
So what you're saying is trust the awesomeness that is your subconscious.
And your subconscious's ability to tap into universal mind, into the intuition that is out there. So a little bit like a mainframe computer that exists. Like, how is it on planet Earth in disparate parts of the world, two people can be working on the same design, the same engine, invention? How is it that can be possible? Now we have such connectivity that we know within a second of who's doing what and what website's been absconded by whom. But back in, say, 120, 200 years ago, there were people working on the same kinds of inventions at the same time. It didn't even know each other, but they tapped into the same sort of universal thought that was available, the mainframe computer that's there, that we're all connected to. I happen to say God.
Yeah.
You can say what you want to say.
That's interesting because, I mean, I was making a joke earlier about quantum mechanics, but there's a whole, I've done a bunch of reading over the last few years about the idea of, like you said, this universal mind, whether it's, whether you call it God or something else, infinite design, that there's an underlying architecture to the universe, and that they talk specifically about that. Two people working on inventions that were nearly identical on opposite sides of the world, pre-internet, right? Before anybody really knew what was going on. And I mean, down to, you looked at the designs and you could almost not tell them apart. And it's like, how did was it just logical, or did they tap into something that is part of the underlying, I guess you could call it, operating system of reality or the universe or whatever? And how, when people are plugged into that, I mean, they talk about Nikola Tesla. He saw things that, well before that, wireless, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, radar, wireless power, all these things that he thought of. How did he plug into that? And so it is interesting when you tap into that universal truth, I guess. I guess I would love to find a way to consciously be able to do that. Sometimes usually it's unconsciously, but it'd be powerful to be able to tap into it consciously.
Liz Gilbert wrote, I think it was, and forgive me because I've never seen the movie or read the book, but I think it was called Eat, Pray, Love. I think it was her sort of autobiographical book that kind of put her on the map as she became famous, and Julia Roberts was in the movie. She then wrote another book later called Big Magic. And in that, but I did read that book. And in that book, she describes how an idea can be handed to you for a moment. If you fail to act on it, if you fail to take action towards the knowing, the thing that seems to come to the forefront of your mind, the conscious part of your mind, and you push it back to the subconscious and you push it away, it's up for grabs. Somebody else will grab it. Now that could sound very, sort of woo-woo or just out of this world or, hey, groovy, man. But I've experienced that. And I have literally experienced that in my own life to a point where I believed it. When I read I was like, yes, I resonate with that. I get it because I've experienced it. I have not done something, not taken advantage of opportunity. And I don't just mean a job offer from somebody. Obviously, they hired somebody else. I mean with a creative endeavor or something in my life that somebody else then popped up later and did or took advantage of somewhere else and go, oh, look at that. And we've all probably had that experience. You've thought about an invention or a tweak to a product, and then, oh, sure enough, somebody did it. Oh, well, that could have been yours to do had you trusted what you do not know you know. You can do it. You're capable. You've got more in you than you know.
You can do it.
That's right.
How do we work on that, Chris? I mean, is it just a factor of practicing, like writing and trying to connect with it? Or is it something that's subconscious? What should we do?
I'd suggest first, if this sounds weird or hanky, stop arguing with it and just accept it. And just for a minute, for 30 days, try it. And then pick up a journal. I shared with you, I don't know, a couple of weeks back that I get these journals printed. And I just got a new batch. And I write every single day. I don't like lined paper for journaling. I like blank pages because it allows me to sort of, I want more cowbell and explore the studio and explore the space. So I like a blank page that I can write on without lines. But that's just me. But try it for 30 days. I would challenge you to journal every single day for 30 days and see what comes up. And then go back and read day one and just, you'll surprise yourself, I believe. And so if you don't already have a journaling practice, or Michael, like you have a diary with a little key, a little heart-shaped key and everything.
I do.
That's fine for you. Some people, men like the journals, all I'm saying.
With kitties.
You do your diary.
With kitties and a little
hello kitty.
It's got a little latch on the side of it that nobody can read. I carry it around my neck, the little key around my neck.
God, I wish that was true.
Dear diary, today Chris Story mocked me again. Felt so good. Felt so good. No, but and you and I have shared this conversation that I can write. I do copywriting. I do a lot of other things, but it's not my favorite thing, right? And so maybe I need to sit down with, I don't know, some software or something and dictate a page every now and then. I don't know, something to be able to just close my eyes and tap into it one way or the other. But something has got to happen.
The non-screen time written page with your hand. And people have done studies relative to your hand, the connection, the mind-body connection between your hand and your brain, and your inner knowing, and actually writing it. But at a minimum, type it.
Yeah.
Use 2 thumbs on your phone, your notes page, and type something every single day for 30 days. Specifically, emptying your mind onto the page. Whatever comes to mind first. It's so simple, but it's a habit, and it takes a little bit of a time to practice and adopt it. I just read a book over the weekend called the 21 Days to, what was it? It's 21 Day Success Journal, or anyway, I'm not seeing it right here to tell you the exact title, but it was a really good book. It's out of print now, but you can still find it. But basically, he picked 21 days because there's studies that have shown, okay, it takes 21 days to create a habit. I say go 30, write 30 days in a row, journal 30. If it's a sentence today, it could be a paragraph tomorrow, a page the next, whatever. Just do it for 30 days and begin to see yourself trusting what it is you do not know, or no, you don't. But you'll begin to trust yourself, and I think see your subconscious and your inner connection and your inner knowing appear on the page, and surprise yourself. 30 days from now, you'll be shocked at what you've written over the last 30 days, and ideas that have come to you, and concepts, and maybe even a contentedness and a sense of self that you didn't know was possible for you. That's my prediction and my challenge.
I'm feeling an urgency to do that. I'm feeling an actual, I feel like a little bit of compulsion to go ahead and do that. So maybe we can revisit in a month and see what happens. I'll go down and pick up a thing, and I'll knuckle down and write and do what I need. Chris Story, the man from Homer, he comes on every week to help us. You can find his new book, The Backyard Millionaire, at ilovehomeralaska.com and on amazon.com. He's working on the latest in the Jacob Mann series, and more. Chris, thanks, brother. Appreciate it. What about your new,
my pleasure.
Your new podcast? Quickly, what about your new show and podcast? What's going on with that?
Backyard Millionaire. You can find it also at ilovehomeralaska.com. Weekly episodes.
All right. There's weekly episodes. Go check it out. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Folks, we're out of time. We got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Well, Mr. Story, I'm not kidding, either. I really feel, how sometimes when you hear something, it resonates with you and you're like, oh, yeah, that sounds, what you're talking about is kind of resonating with me right now. Like maybe I need to sit down and write down these things that I've been thinking about and talking about. And like I said, trying to tap into that underlying universal basic operating system. I always end up comparing things to computers. I don't know why, but you know,
right, nerd.
Well, I know it's the nerdy side of me. It also makes sense in my brain. You know what I mean? Stuff that makes sense in my brain. So,
and I say do it. If you feel that way, then you got to do it. You got to do it today. Start today. But here's what I'd suggest: start today with anything, scraps of paper, spiral bound notebook, whatever. But Michael, you should go to vistaprint.com and upload your logo, your cool logo that you got all over your website and stuff, that you and your sunglasses and your fabulous famous beard, and have some of those journals. You can get those spiral bound notebooks. They're like 5 by 8 is what they are, that measure out, or maybe they're 8 by 6, whatever. It very cheap, like $5-6 a piece. Have them printed with just that cover on it of your own, and there's a sense of ownership instantly in journaling in your own journal. And so start today with whatever you've got, but then go to Vista. I mean, they're super cheap. You can order 1 or 2 or 3. I order 5 at a time, and I love them, and they're self-satisfying to look at because it's mine. That is mine. I am writing this.
Because you put
I'm not writing this in Meads or Moleskines. This is mine.
Do you put your own headshot on it so you can look at I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful.
No, I have it printed with a special mirror coating on the inside. It costs a little more, but it's worth it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't write much. I just sit there and admire. And admire.
A lot of narcissism.
That's
here.
right.
The narcissism is deep.
Right. White.
But no, just have those printed and they'll ship right to your door. But meanwhile, get started on something today. But I suspect you'll fill whatever you've got started today. You'll fill that in the next 10, 15 days, and then be ready by the time your customized notebooks come in. You'll be ready to start on those, and you probably just won't stop.
Yeah, well,
it's that enjoyable.
I like it. I like it a lot. Like I said, and I'm feeling compelled. So that'll be cool. All right. Well, Chris, I appreciate you, my friend. I thank you so much, and I hope the rest of your week goes
what a pleasure
great.
to be here.
All right. Thanks, bud.
All right. This is the highlight. You know, it's going to go downhill from here.
Right.
See you, Michael.
That's true. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on board the story. A man from Homer comes on board to share with us every single week. Boy, we can't get rid of him. It's all good. It's all good. All right, let's continue on here, and we will continue the discussion. I guess we'll keep the phone lines open. We'll do that. We'll see what's going on. Randy said, Chris Stories, you don't know what you think you know is giving me a bit of a struggle. I think that I know that it would be good for me to apply for old age security. Social Security, I'm 68, but I feel as though I need to hear from a person who is old who decided not to take Social Security. Here's my thing, Randy. You paid into it. I don't know why you wouldn't take it out. It's your money. Why wouldn't you take it off? I mean, why wouldn't you take it out of it? I mean, why? There is no reason not to take it. It is your money. Oh, God. If you don't take it, the feds are just going to spend it anyway. That's the thing. Yeah, why would there even be a hesitation? Guarantee you I will be filing the minute that I can get a chance to file, because why? Because it was my money that they took all those years. That's exactly what's going to happen. Why wouldn't you take that money? Again, if you don't, they are going to spend it, my friend. They're going to spend the whole kit and caboodle. And then they'll spend your kids and your grandkids and your nieces and your nephews' monies and everything else. So, yeah, the second that you can qualify for Social Security, mash that button, because otherwise it's going to be gone. That's what's going to happen. Okay. The only good in Alaska right now, says Chris, is that we're gaining 7 minutes of daylight every day. Well, I mean, that's, I guess there's other good news, but yeah, I mean, that is definitely a piece of good news. I definitely am happy about it. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me started. All right. We paid $5,000 in self-employment tax this year, says Harold. You could take ours, Randy. That's big of him. That's big news there. Chris Story just sent me a picture. He sent me a picture of the Chinese balloon. On it, it says, "Weather balloon, totally not for spying." Oh, man. Okay. We got one final segment. One final segment. We are ready to go. Laugh, smile, be ready. Like and share, subscribe, ring the bell, The Michael Duke Show. Okay, well, one final segment of the show today. And I guess we'll go this way. We'll take your phone calls, see what you have to say. 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. If you'd like to sound what you have to say on the program, all the lines are open and we are ready to go. I'm like I said, I was telling Chris, I'm feeling compelled to go ahead and do that, to write things down, even though it's not something that I just feel like it's not something I'm very good at. I can knuckle down and write when I need to on certain things, but to just write down my day, I mean, sometimes don't you, I just want to get away from my day. You know what I mean? I just want to sit on the couch. I just want to eat a little dinner. I just want to vegetate in front of the TV just a little bit, take my mind off everything that happened for the day. Maybe it would be better if I would just write it out. Would it be like pushing if that's what I did? If I got in there and I wrote it down, maybe that would feel better. And I guess it would be an interesting experiment to go back later on and to see what exactly it is that I wrote and what I was, and what I was feeling. That would be interesting. All right. Well, now I'm thinking about it. All right, we got to jump back over to the phones here to see what you guys have to say. 907-433-3150. Let's go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
The interior, Mike. This is Mark. I just wanted to point out that was thievery in progress and trespass on that Willow. Alaskans were not given the adjudication that it deserved, which is justice. The educational malpractice imposed on Alaskans for the last 64 years has allowed this judicial theft to take place regarding Alaska's state constituted statute, mines and mining, section 28A1, 90%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you. I appreciate you calling in and finishing up your thought there on that. All right, that leaves the lines open at 907-433-3150. I'm looking at some guests this week. I really enjoyed the conversation that we had with Mark. Oh my gosh, I totally just dropped Mark's last name. The Alaskan author who's written for Tom Clancy and others. Mark Cameron, that's who it was. And I really enjoyed that interview with Mark Cameron, the Alaskan-based author. And I would like to do more kind of feel-good segments instead of just doing politics as well. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on that. If there's any if there's any discussion or anything else, I'd love to hear what you have to say. on that this morning, or any other subjects of, good news or things like that, because sometimes we do get, bogged down in the, we get bogged down in the day-to-day grind, the politics, the angst, the angers, so, so many crazy things that are going on out there, but there is good in there. There are good things out there, like the story of the Belgian man who was able to meet the descendants of a neighbor who saved him from the Holocaust. And this is a huge story. He was able to meet the descendants and find them after his son and a helpful geneticist managed to track down the grandchildren. The meeting was organized in the same house where 5-year-old David Rossler was hidden along with his mother. Now 85, Rossler had a chance to thank the grandchildren for what their grandfather, George Burlet, did. Burlet lived in Ottergem, Brussels, with his 4 adolescent children. Together, they gave shelter to Rossler and his mother towards the end of the war in 1944, after Rossler's uncle and grandfather had already been seized by the Nazis and sent to Auschwitz. In present day, David Rossler's son Lionel has tried for years to find the family that hid his father, and his grandmother. Thanks to social media and genealogist Marie Capart at MyHeritage, he was able to track down Anne Marie's son Xavier. And they browsed the records, they cross-referenced the data, and they discovered where they were. Although through Xavier, Capart got into contact with all 5 grandchildren of Georges Burlet and explained that Lionel hoped to be able to introduce them to David, whom their grandfather had saved when, again, he was just a 5-year-old boy. And then it became clear that one of the grandchildren lived in the very house that David was hidden in, after which a meeting was then set up there. So it is an amazing story of courage and of just, human spirit. It's so cool. That's the kind of stories that I want to talk about every now and then. That kind of stuff, because sometimes, sometimes you gotta put your politics aside for a minute and find some love your fellow man and one another and everything else. 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. Harold, some of the going to work on contributions to Turkey. Are there any non-corrupt organizations like the Red Cross? I don't know. The Red Crescent is the Red Cross in Turkey. I don't know if you can contribute to them directly or not, but yeah, they had an earthquake that was similar in magnitude to the one that we had here in 2018. I don't know. We're lucky we just didn't have more damage here when it was all said and done. All right, let's go over here. One final call. We're almost out of time, so let's go over here to the phones real quick and see what this caller has to say at 907-433-3150. Good morning, caller. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Michael, this is Carlene in Kodiak.
Hey, Carlene, how you doing?
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Michael.
Quickly.
In reference to the David Eastman story, losing his staff, I'm sorry that happened. But it also, the thought came to me about Corrie ten Boom, World War II. She and her family helped take in Jewish people and get them out of the country. And then her dad died and she was in prison with her sister. Praise God for the life.
Yeah.
And Corrie couldn't.
All right. Thanks. I'm sorry. Out of time, folks. We got to go. I'm sorry, Carlene. I was up against a hard break there. You could finish your story real quick, though, before I let you go.
Yes. What happened then is Corrie didn't really like that. She'd agree with her sister for praising God for the life. The guards would come into that dormitory so the women were not molested or harmed.
in the dormitory that they were at?
Yes, because this suggested that they praise God for the life. So the guards wouldn't go in there and bother those women.
That's interesting.
Those two beautiful Christian women were not molested then.
It's a good story. I appreciate you sharing it with us, Carlene. Thank you for being part of it today, and thank you for sharing that story. All right. Well, we are out of time now for reels. We're gonna go. We're gonna take a break and be back tomorrow. Mike Shower will be joining us, working on Kathy Tilton for tomorrow or Thursday, and we'll have more then. Thanks for coming on board the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
Goodbye.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.